There's been a massive increase in activity at the U.S.-Mexico border as drugs continue to pour across the southern border. Joining us this morning with more on what's happening down there and exclusive video is our Newsmax border correspondent and retired Texas Department of Public Safety Captain Jason Jones. Jason, good morning. Happy Monday. Good to see you.
Hey, good morning to you. It's good to be with you this morning.
Great to have you back on. The crisis down there didn't go away over the weekend. It's still happening at our southern border, stretching in now almost 10 months. You were following 8 smugglers. You sent us video. I'm going to play the video here and just sort of take us through what we're looking at here.
Yeah, sure. We've been embedded with the Texas Department of Public Safety in Big Bend. And yesterday, Big Bend is far west Texas. They've got about 510 miles of the Rio Grande River. And just to give the viewers an example, you can fit the state of Connecticut in Big Bend. It's so vast and big in this country. But what you're seeing on your screens right now are 8 smugglers who had moved over 25 miles into the United States. And Rob, they were in the mountains. And you're looking at about 350 to 400 pounds of marijuana that was seized, along with what we believe is methamphetamine, before it reached further into the U.S. These guys had about 12 to 20 more miles to go before they were going to get picked up at another rally point. But what really stunned me with this is
Jason, hold on one sec. I want to roll that clip of the packages of drugs. I was looking at this before the show. I want our audience to see the drugs that you guys were able to seize. Again, these almost made it into the United States. Sadly, this has happened countless times, though, that drugs like this have made it in and haven't been stopped before.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, Rob, that was 25 miles into the country. Those guys had been backpacking it for 6 days. And when we landed on the ground, they had just taken them into custody. And the brush down there is thick. I mean, you can't see 3 to 5 feet in front of you once you get down where these smugglers hide. And I could literally smell the bundles of dope before you could actually see it coming around through some of the brush. It's that thick.
Wow.
And then we spent the next probably 2.5 hours locating another 5 individuals that had fled. So that's just the kind of environment that's happening down here. But again, all of this is a part of, Operation Lone Star, a $1.8 billion funded operation, which is trying to stop what's happening out here. And what the guys out here will tell you that are working this extensively in both a collaborative environment of local, state, and federal law enforcement together is that they're seeing a volume they've not seen previously. They're arresting a lot of Haitians out here. They're arresting a lot of Cubans out here, Guatemalans and El Salvadorians. So the volume of people has really increased. And I went to a debris field yesterday. It's one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. It was so large it even had a shrine where they're praying and providing offerings. We're going to be showing you that as well. And what a debris field is where it's a link-up location where everybody drops all their excess clothing. And you've just got this stuff scattered everywhere, even in trees. So we're going to show you that as well throughout the week. We'll be with them all week long and be able to show you just exactly what's happening out here, because the trends in smuggling are completely different than what you see in South Texas.
Well, I think it's also different from what people imagine it being like. Those massive packages, they're camouflaged. A couple quick questions, just nuts and bolts. And we've got video of the 8 smugglers, I believe, that were ultimately apprehended by the group that you were with. Where do these drugs go once they cross the border? What's the next step? They're not just walked into small town America. They've got to be shipped or driven in. And then what happens to these smugglers? Do they spend any time in jail, or are they just put right back into circulation on the other side of the border?
Yeah, so each one of them will be charged federally on this case. So I won't go into too much detail of that investigation itself. But it's a great question, because what happens from there is these bundles then go into a stash house. They get broke down into voids or compartments, and then other smugglers then transport them via vehicle to cities all over the country. That's really the way this works. But what's really different about West Texas is that when you're in South Texas, from the time you cross that river to the time you reach a stash house is mere minutes, because you have stash houses everywhere right at the river.
Wow.
When you're in West Texas out here, it is measured in days, Rob. So before they can reach some of these stash houses, or even, like Highway 90, you're talking they're going to be on the ground walking 8 to 10 days usually. That just gives you an example of how different this environment is, which is also why law enforcement have to use the equipment that you're seeing behind me, like this A-Star helicopter. But they also use something else, and that's old technology, where you're using a man who's well-versed in how to read sign, which is basically tracking people. So you're using, crap from the 1800s, right? But you're also using some of this modern technology, and you're intertwining the two to make it work. And I'm going to literally be on the ground walking you through this week, because I got to tell you, even for an old lawman, it's stunning to see how they really bring it all together
Shocking
to
stuff.
make it successful. It really is.
And rough terrain, too, the terrain that these smugglers are going over. It's not just, people think it's just smooth desert with no wall. It's rough terrain in many cases. Yeah. Jason Jones, I know you're going back up today. Keep us posted. We appreciate the video, as always. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.